Good evening. I'll be your moderator today. My name is Kautar Mahmoudi. I'm Vice President of SJP. Does anyone have a question? Okay, yeah, please come up.
Hi, my name is Judith. I'm a student at Brooklyn College, and I'm a senior. I guess my connection with this event, I recently attended the global demonization of Jews at Cooper Union in the city, where the ambassador of Israel to the UN, he was there being interviewed by another very well-known person. And the entire event was about Jews and how they're being demonized, and just everything that you said about anti-Semitism in Europe and just everywhere around the globe, and the number of people who agreed with this view that Jews are being demonized, and hearing your perspective as an Israeli Jew, can you elaborate more on how we can engage more Jewish young people on our campuses and help them to see this view that you have, and how can we engage them more? Thank you.
Wow, thank you for sharing this information because those events are taking place around the country. They're part of an organized state propaganda that has intensified in response to both solidarity actions around the world, starting after the Gaza attack, but especially in response to what was considered to be mainstream Jews who are withholding their unconditional support of Israel. It is a difficult strategic question. We are starting a 8-campus speaking tour tonight here, and students for Justice in Palestine who are co-sponsoring events with Women and Gender Studies departments. We're entering March, that is kind of Women's History Month, are facing intimidation on college campuses on the part of Jewish students who say they feel uncomfortable as a result. It concerns me because it really deprives students like you who heard the other viewpoint to come and say, wait a minute, as a student I am entitled to hearing multiple perspectives. This is an issue where I think our college administrators have to demand a definition of anti-Semitism. It is an insult to academic inquiry to cave to a group that uses its discomfort to silence other viewpoints. This should not be allowed in a democracy.
Can I just add something? Yeah, I also think that actually it is the ultimate anti-Semitism to assume that all Jews think the same way and all Jews has the same political position. So when somebody comes and says, all Jewish students are uncomfortable, which Jewish students are you talking about? And actually the discomfort in class is the best thing that could provoke critical thinking. Now, I'm not talking about hate speech. There is a very big difference between hate speech and between criticism. Criticizing Israel is criticizing the actions of a government that is like any other government, should be held accountable for its actions. Saying that every single Jewish person around the world is aligned on the same positions around Israel, that is anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitism or stereotyping of any community is assuming everybody thinks the same way. When anybody says all Arabs are the same, all Muslims are alike, all these people are, that is actually stereotyping and hate speech. So that is really important to think about that. The other thing is that there isn't really this whole question, the United States government and universities as well have actually investigated this whole thing about activism around Palestine or activism around Middle East or whatever makes Jewish students uncomfortable and makes campuses unsafe. And they have been investigated by the Department of Justice, they have been investigated by the Department of Education, and the Department of Justice, and the Department of Education, and the government of the United States is no friend of the Palestinian people. I mean, at least we know that. They're not actually biased towards Palestine. If anything, they are more biased towards Israeli government's viewpoint. And they have found that there is no basis for that. University of California has done a huge report, because one of the groups that has been like very active and very well funded is the AMCHA initiative at UC Santa Cruz. And they keep coming, they came at us last year, they'll come, UCLA, everybody. And the University of California has done also investigation, and they interviewed tons of Jewish students, and maybe 1 or 2 students in the all of campus said, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable because there is pro-Palestinian activism on campus. And it's not, again, the final thing is not pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli. We think it is pro-justice. You need to be pro-justice to preserve humanity and stop all this colonization and killing.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question? No?
Can somebody tell us what the deal is with Brooklyn College?
Yes, I can.
Here? Yes, please.
Yeah, and I want to add the question to the students, because one of the reasons we're doing it is to support the effort of students, faculty, and community members who are committed to hearing multiple voices and understand what we need to do for justice to prevail in Palestine and in our community. So in addition to explaining what is happening here, also what kind of support do you need as Students for Justice in Palestine? And what message do you have to other chapters in other parts of the country? What have you learned from your work? I think it's important for us to shed light on what you're doing, both the successes and the challenges.
Well, it has been hard for us to schedule events on campus. Well, today we couldn't have our event open to the public.
Why?
Well, because there wasn't enough security on campus for us to have enough security to cover. We didn't have enough security on campus because...
Why do you need security?
We needed security because they, if it's open to the public, then they would need more security than if it's open to CUNY students.
But why is security necessary? I mean, like there is tons of security
those
outside.
are the rules with the SUBO, Student Center.
Who pays for the security?
Well, we paid for the security in the beginning, but that was not fair, and then...
SJP.
Yes, we had to pay $400, but not anymore. Like, they took that out because we fought it.
So just to elaborate on just sort of a timeline of difficulties that SJP has had organizing, and I don't think this is exclusive to Brooklyn College SJP, because I've heard multiple stories from SJPs all over the nation with this happening. But for this specific event, the timeline goes is that we had initially sent out an email to administration back in January detailing, all the details of the event. The first week of school, we submitted requests for the event, which we followed basically all the guidelines for event planning that are set out by the college, which is that we request the event 4 weeks in advance. About a week after we submitted the request, we hadn't heard anything, followed up with an email. The email was not responded to. 2 days after that email, we got a fresh new email, not a response to our email, saying, hey, I was wondering if SJP was planning on having anything, even though we had sent emails previously.
Like, we sent a detailed email with all our events, all our bake sales, everything. And then she got that response.
Yeah, so then we
got,
had
like,
to
received nothing.
basically sit down and have a meeting with our liaison, in which we were told that we're trying to not have tension and continue to move forward, and that it would be appreciated if we didn't start off the year saying that we did something that we didn't actually do, i.e. that we didn't submit the request forms that we submitted. Of course, requesting that videos be checked, video surveillance be checked, was out of the question. I will not have the staff investigated was basically the response that we got. And then we had another, so this is all, we're coming closer and closer to the event, and we still cannot advertise for the event. And as we get closer to the date of the event, we have yet another meeting with administration in which we're told, even if we had submitted, which is once again saying that we didn't submit a request, even if we had submitted a request for the event, we would not be able to have it at 6 p.m. because there's a scheduled fire drill, which happened earlier, so we have to have it 6:30. We said, okay, we'll have it 6:30. Also, we were told there's a shortage of security personnel, and therefore no public events can be held on February 26th specifically. And I don't know if you came in earlier, but there seemed to be plenty of security around. So that's specific to this event, but generally, previously, when we first started, we didn't have to pay a security fee. Then there was a fee for security, but the security was sort of imposed on us. There were no guidelines for what events required security. The first time this happened, Ahmad Barghouti event, it was on the spot. I forget who it was who was like, I'm telling you that this event is high profile and therefore you're going to have this security checkpoint, the whole
Metal detector.
yeah, metal detector, airport security style. And then after that, there was the whole $400 fee. The following year, there was a new thing that was in the thing that in the rules, I believe student government put it in place that the security fee cannot be paid from the club funds. So basically, you have to somehow come up with $400 per event that you cannot pay from your club fund for security, and that was later removed, and now the whole security fee has been eliminated, which small victory compared to everything else. There's also the first year we tried to have, during Israeli Apartheid Week, a checkpoint. We were told we could not have a checkpoint because there are programs on campus with little children, and that it was too graphic for them. We could not have that on campus.
There were plenty of checkpoints when we came in today.
We couldn't have a mock checkpoint. So we said, okay, we'll have a silent wall. They said, so then they went into the rules, which I don't think is, is not scrutinized as much for others, and we're in contact with other clubs who have confirmed that to us. We were told it could not be over 3 feet high, so we sawed down our whole wall. It was made out of wood to exactly 3 feet high, and we had it. The following week, Israeli Club had their 8-foot-high peace ball on campus. There was no problem with that. The next year, so we painted this whole wall out of wood. The next year, there was a new rule. No wooden structures are allowed on campus. We had to remake the whole thing on campus. So these are just some examples of the difficulties this specific SJP has had in this campus. And I'm sure there are many other, with John Jay, they had a whole thing where they had a die-in. This is another CUNY school. They had a die-in, and then they were subject to suppression.
Sanctions, yeah.
By their administration as well. So this is definitely not isolated incidents. It's something recurring, something we see across many campuses with a lot of Palestine solidarity organizing.
Can I
And
ask
tonight-
another question? Oh, yeah.
And tonight we have 3 security guards outside of our room when there are plenty of events, and I've been walking around the building and they have no security outside.
So can I ask you a question? So what, if we want to talk about structural analysis, so have you researched your students, you're studying here, the first thing to do is to research, as if you're doing a research paper. Have you researched what are the links, who is making these decisions at the college, where does it come from, how can you affect it, because that's the first thing to do. And also, have you when you SJP, what are they and what are other students clubs doing here, and what's the faculty doing?
That's one.
And if we were allowed to
We weren't even allowed to have a guest list, which other clubs, like, they had guest lists. Like, there's an event in the basement that they could come in with different IDs. It doesn't have to be CUNY, and they allowed them because it was a guest list. I was downstairs.
But
and I
we
witnessed
were
this.
just
Yeah, I
told
was
that you
downstairs.
didn't have a guest list.
We
That's
don't.
that was your fault.
No,
You
they didn't
have-
allow us a guest list. We just had BC and CUNY students with IDs only.
And then they didn't allow you to advertise. Someone said, what happened with the publicity for this event? It was restricted as well, wasn't
Yes,
it?
it was until about 3 or 4 days before the event was when we were first allowed to advertise the event. And that's after our flyer had gone back and forth several times, over 3 times, with administration scrutinizing the terminology on our flyer, which wasn't done until after we had, with other clubs, until after we pointed it out. So basically, we automatically get scrutinized.
What language? I mean, I think it's important for us to look at the detail. It's censorship. If your student club, as long as it's not hate speech,
No.
what was the problem with the
So
terminology?
basically, it was our original flyer, and this is obviously shortening the amount of time because until it's approved, we can't advertise. So the original flyer said open to CUNY community. They said it has to say open to BC CUNY only. We changed it to open to BC CUNY only with valid ID. They said no, it has to say with valid BC CUNY ID, which is all very obviously.
Delayed. It's delaying tactics.
Yeah.
It's delaying tactics.
It's just tedious. Like, it's tedious work.
It's not tedious.
But other
It's not. This is structural.
student clubs, the MSA downstairs has a flyer. Theirs just says BC welcome ID required. That's all their flyer says. Nothing was said about it. There was another club that their advertising said that it was open to public, and until we brought attention to it, nothing was said. So our pages, as soon as we upload something, administration emails us right away. So it's the hours.
Where do you upload? On the college?
On our Facebook page.
That's
our
your
fan
private
page.
Facebook.
It's our.
So
fan
it's being
page.
monitored by the college.
Basically, it's being monitored. So this is just a few things also, and we could only advertise about 3 days before the event. So as you see, the amount of people that came.
But one thing that I did want to ask is, you are both academics, and I'm sure that you face something similar. I don't know to what extent, and I would love, and I think we all here would love to hear, some of your, your experiences and how you fought suppression on your campuses. Because I forget where you're in.
I'm at one of the SUNY schools.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll start from the end. I'm glad one of the faculty members spoke up. The only place where I think we slightly differ is I don't think it should be the onus of the students to reach out to faculty. I think it should be the onus of faculty to hold other faculty accountable and saying, this is what is happening outside the classroom. I mean, I actually interviewed.
It's happening here also.
Oh, yeah.
It's happening.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm saying I interviewed here last year for a position at the Honors College. And I was very open about where I stood. The reason I interviewed for a 2-year position was because I heard what Students for Justice in Palestine were facing, and I felt that as a tenured full professor, with the work that I've done, I have something to contribute to the administration. So I think those of us who have that type of privilege could. And, it took them 3 months to tell me that they decided to go in a different direction. The only thing that people wanted to talk to me about throughout the interview, my presentation was about social justice education. And I used Palestine as one example. I was very open, and, someone could Google my name and see what I've done. But it was obvious to me, coming to interview was part of an intervention in the system. It was clear to me that I would not be hired, because the moment you step outside of that little box that people put you in justice.
I'm moving so we can see people.
It becomes, you become part of the problem, not part of the solution. Even though I believe, as some of you could say, that I know the other side, and as an engaged intellectual, I felt that we're not doing our jobs if we're not safeguarding the space for students to be confronted with different perspectives. Um, I started my career at American University in Washington, D.C. as a newly minted activist. I came to the academy as an activist, and at the public university, at a private university where students had at that time to pay $55,000 tuition, students were uncomfortable with my perspective. Not just Jewish students, people that kind of accepted U.S. foreign policy uncritically. And so I did face some challenges in the classroom. What surprised me the most was the challenges I faced at Evergreen. So I moved after 8 years at American. I was at the Evergreen State College, and I did not mention it in my presentation because I wanted, but I have written about it. Rachel Corrie, who was killed, murdered in Rafah on March 16, 2003, was my student. So when we talk about solidarity and the risks that you take and creating a space in the classroom, she's an example of many students at Evergreen that went and joined the international solidarity movement. And after Rachel was killed, incidentally, her parents, now we're looking at 12 years after she was killed, almost to the day the Israeli Supreme Court denied their appeal. So basically, the bulldozer drivers, the system that covered for him, were all absolved of any responsibility. But what's interesting is what happened on what is considered the most progressive college campus in the country was that all it took were 2 Jewish faculty members who complained to the legislature that in the aftermath of Rachel's murder, they felt uncomfortable and they labeled that anti-Semitism. And I was the only person. I was on the soft money with grants, etc., and I could not continue and teach there. I mean, gradually I was asked less and less to teach. And that's because in a place where Jews were a minority, the fact that some faculty members felt uncomfortable because 2,000 people came to Rachel Corrie's memorial, and every teaching we did after she was murdered about Palestine was standing room only, they had to try and silence someone, and I was the person that got the most media attention. There's some racism there too, because the media was afraid to be perceived as taking sides. But having an Israeli Jew who was Rachel's teacher was an easier thing. Fast forward to SUNY. So I left to take a position in what I refer to Siberia. It's Siberia in North America. And I used to joke and say, this is where radical academics go to get tenure. I left peace and conflict studies and international politics for gender and women's studies at a time when my work on transnational feminism was hard. And I went deliberately to a place where there was a small Jewish community. And I mean, I really think that the fact that I got tenured and promotion, I mean, I would say I deserved it, but the outcry about my politics only came up after I was already tenured. I had a dean that really looked at my publications and thought that they merited support, and she kind of pushed for it. And when people started organizing against me, it was too late. But the only way that I see to move forward right now is to speak truth to justice, to expose the structural thing, not to buy into, oh, let's be nice, and what did they say? You don't want to enhance the tension. I mean, the tension is there, and you don't ask the people that are trying to raise issues about injustice to play fair, because that's actually blaming the victim. Legal, get faculty involved, talk to the media. There is nothing university administrators are more worried about than PR. Talk to PR, have events during open house. I mean, hold the institution accountable to what it says. If it presents itself as a place that is open to the exchange of ideas, that should include everyone. And the onus is on the institution to show that it treats Students for Justice in Palestine the same way as it does. Right now, I think they have a lot to explain, including the way we were treated from the very first moment. This is not, we have a basis to compare. We have been speaking for the past 25 years on college campuses. Never have we experienced this type of checkpoints, showing ideas,
Disrespect.
and it was absolutely disrespectful. And I don't care what's the logic behind it, because the structures of oppression always have some way to legitimize them. Part of speaking to us to justice is to say, I see no reason to do that. We are both respected academics with credentials. We were invited by a student group, and it was a way to, it was less directed towards us. It was directed towards Students for Justice in Palestine, trying to discourage you from doing this work in the future. So, I know we will speak about this as we travel around the country.
All right, so you bear with me because we've had a huge attack on us. We don't have SJP, but we have General Union of Palestine students on campus. It's the only ongoing chapter since 1978 when GOB started in the United States. The chapter has been sanctioned many times by the administration, and the past president of the university was very, very, very pro-Israel, very willing participant, enthusiastic supporter of Israel and its policies, and very good friends with the Jewish Community Relations Council, who were visiting him almost every week. So this is what the setup is like on campus. We have good faculty that's organized in a union like PSC. So generally the faculty is okay, but generally there is some knowledge about Palestine, but there isn't really a lot of knowledge about a lot of things. So for instance, the university all the time does blood drive in Ramadan. And we keep telling them, you cannot do it in Ramadan, because if students go and faculty who are fasting go to donate blood, they have to have juice afterwards, otherwise they faint. You need to change it and do it some other time, because this is very offensive. They never do. Okay, so there is there are structural issues that are there that have to do, even though San Francisco State University is one of the most radical, supposed to be, because of the 1968 student strike, this does not go throughout the university. So the higher you go in the campus, the whiter it gets, and the more racist. And this is, it's a reality. So in 2002, GOBS was sanctioned because actually of no fault of their own. And then it was Hillel. It was the coalition, later on became the Coalition for Israel, that attacked the Palestinian students. And we had this pro-Israeli person who claiming to be a reporter, always coming to campus to take information and write about them and spy about the students and intimidate them and so on. But the president was very pro-Israel, so he sanctioned the students. Then after that, the university created something called task force on what's going on and what should happen. It was from all the communities, and there were pro-Israeli groups involved. There were a lot of Arab, Muslim, communities of color, all sorts of people were involved. And part of the recommendations was to hire faculty that would mentor the students. And this is how I got to be at the university. They were doing a search for 5 years. Finally, 2007, I was hired. And when I came, I said, I cannot come by myself. If you don't give me critical mass, I'm not going to build the program by myself. I need other people. And they said, okay, you will have 2 other lines. And in my contract, it's supposed to be 3 of us. 2008, 2009, it was the massacre in Gaza. The students, the Palestinians, 2007, we did the Edward Said mural, which the university has also stopped. And this is very interesting, especially in view of what's happening with Charlie Hebdo and cartoonists and freedom of speech and so on. The president of the university stopped the mural for many years because there was a cartoon image of Hamdallah, the Palestinian refugee, who has torn clothing, doesn't have shoes, standing with his back. A refugee kid cartoon was giving nightmares to the president of the university. So actually the president of the university prevented the mural from being painted until the image of Hamdallah and another image of the key, and it says Al-Awda, return, which is about Palestinian refugees, were removed from the mural. It's very interesting because I was talking to students about Charlie Hebdo, and at the same time we were showing them a video about the Palestinian mural, and it's like, Actually, it took me a while. I'm like, look at that. We actually were censored, and everybody's talking about cartoonist freedom of speech. Like, very interesting. Nobody talked about it. Was talked about at that time, but was supposed to be making Jewish students feel uncomfortable, which was like, I mean, seriously, but that was the case. So they did we did the mural. Every year there's anniversary of the mural. In 2009, the students decided to invite Omar Barghouti to speak about Gaza, and he spoke about BDS. The president flipped. The Jewish Community Relations Council came and visited 4 rabbis, 10 people visited, and demanded that the event be cancelled. So the president said, well, he was good on freedom of speech, he covered himself. He said, no, we cannot cancel it. And they said, but you have a professor, she's for boycott, you need to get rid of her, and so on. So nothing happened at that time, and the college of the dean of the College of Ethnic Studies was actually asked straightforward by the delegation that came to meet the president, do you know how that this will cost you? Because the college endorsed the event, and we, Ahmed, also endorsed the event. All right? So it was a direct threat. So immediately after that, we were doing searches for the 2 lines. The president canceled the searches, canceled them, right? I was actually at Middle Studies Association interviewing people. He canceled them. At the end of the year, in the spring, he deleted the lines completely. So we actually lost 2 faculty lines. We lost them completely. So it's like one person, me. So in this year, in November last year, 2013, Palestinian students did the mural event again. This is really interesting to us. Just pay attention to what happened. So we have a Native American students group called SKINS, Student Council for Intertribal Nations. And they do, for 35 years, they've been doing this event in the community, in the Native American community. And they have a slogan that says, our heroes always killed colonizers. And they have t-shirts and so on and so forth. So they were doing a table, because whenever Palestinian students are there, Mecha, Rasa, Black Student Union, all the student clubs come and they set up tables and they support them. So the SKINS was having a stencil doing it like this. One of the Palestinians carried the stencil in support of SKINS. Another Palestinian took his picture. All of a sudden, Amcha, which is our pit bull on the other side of campus. You have David Project here and the Brandeis Center. We have Amcha. And they're all funded from the same people, by the way. Wait for the report. And so they said that this is the email they sent to the president of the university, and I actually can share it with you. It's public. They said that the Palestinian students did this. Edward Said calls Israel a colonial country. The Palestinian students have this slogan. They didn't even mention the Native American students. Ergo, Palestinian students are calling for the killing of the Jews, and Professor Abdel Hadi is teaching students how to kill Jews. Next, what happened? We had a new president of the university who seemed to be reaching out to the Arab community and to us and so on, but he was new at it. So the office of the president issued a statement condemning anti-Semitism. I'm like, well, what you're doing, basically, you're confirming that we were engaged in an anti-Semitic act by condemning anti-Semitism and not even talking about other hate speech and so on. And the attack continued through the whole year. So we had actually the pictures of the students posted. The Jewish Studies was sending emails to the president saying that students who served in the IDF, in the Israeli military, are worried about their security from us. And a professor who's the chair of Israeli Studies is worried about his security from us. And I actually went to the president. I said, look, I grew up under occupation. The only guns I saw were the guns that Israeli soldiers were holding, including my colleague, right? So I should be afraid of him, not he is afraid of me, because I'm not the one who's running around campus. He must be still in active duty. If he has not stopped said that he's crazy or something, he will still be on active duty. So he's running around campus. The attack continued. In March, in January, I organized a delegation to Palestine, academic and labor delegation to Palestine. We had different people in it. One of our colleagues, a Native American professor, was blogging, and she was blogging about everybody we met. We were 189 people, at least 189 people. Within the 189 people, there were 2 people that they picked on, Layla Khalid and Sheikh Ra'ed Salah. Why? Because they could whip up Islamophobia and rally people in this age of hatred of Muslims in the United States, and they can talk about terrorism. So basically, they started picking. We did a public event. They attacked the public event. They tried to get it cancelled. After the public event, they said, and in the public event, I said that we're going to set up a memorandum of understanding with An-Najah University. They said An-Najah University and BZ are terrorist universities, citing the ADL. I mean, it's all on their website, by the way. And then that I'm saying this is not Solidarity 101, and I'm misusing. They said I'm misusing university funds to go to do my political goals, and that they implicated me in terrorism, they implicated me in criminal charges. This whole year, I was defending myself the whole year, and there are many people in the audience here who actually were very supportive. It was like and this is the morale of the story is that this, and also in 2009 also, the college Republicans and the Coalition for Israel organized an event. They said, support Palestine, condemn Hamas, because of course they know what's best for the Palestinians. Because Palestinians are stupid. We don't know what's best for us. Somebody else has to come and tell us. So they were telling us, and then they put out a flyer that was not stamped by the student center, but they put on it La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah Shahada in the first tenet of Islam, and they put a tennis shoe and they say, throw shoes at Hamas flag and win prizes. So of course students from Muslim Student Association, Genuine of Palestine students, Black Student Union, all the students were horrified. Everybody was horrified. This is like really insulting and horrible, desecrating of Islam. And the university was actually thinking that Islamophobia is not hate speech. So it's legally, it's not really hate speech. I'm like, what are you organizing to get the students to understand what's going on in Gaza? So psychologically we can counsel the students. I said, before we counsel, we need to deal with Islamophobia here. And they said, well, it's not illegal. I said, I don't care it's illegal or not illegal. And we had in the meeting, there were the head of Jewish studies, there were Hillel and so on. I said, look, if I see any student drawing a Jewish star anywhere to kind of like desecrate the Jewish religion, I will tell them. I don't wait for you to come and tell me, go tell your student and so on, assuming that it's Arab or Muslim students doing it, because they know better. They don't do it. They wouldn't do it. But if somebody says something, I'm the one who's going to go mentor them and do it. Why aren't you saying something to your students? Why aren't you saying that this is not okay? You're advising. You are their advisors. They said that there was no problem whatsoever. But what happened is that we did a huge activity and so on. So David Horowitz, who does this quote-unquote Islamofascism week on campuses, cannot come to San Francisco State campus anymore. He is unwelcomed. He is a persona non grata. He cannot have it. So since 2009, it doesn't happen on campus. With us, what happened is that we decided to organize, and I talked to the student and said, look, you're attacked, I'm attacked, the program is attacked. We need to come together and build a movement. This is the time to do it. Let's not take it anymore, because what they've been doing, exactly what's happening here. Every single time GOVS does something, the rules change. All of a sudden, subhanAllah, everything you plan, they change the rules. Specifically, exactly like what happened with you here. And then when they want to put the qualification on our flyers, you want to do that, you should do it on every single paper the university publishes, including the statements by the president. Otherwise, you cannot do it, because you're being selective. You're actually, and the president, when he did that statement, the office of the president on anti-Semitism, they also condemned the students' slogan, our heroes always kill communists. So all the legal communities in the Bay Area, including Center for Constitutional Rights from here, Asian Law Caucus, all of them, everybody wrote him, National Lawyers Guild, wrote him a very, very strong letter saying you cannot, even if the speech is rude, even if it's something you disagree with, you cannot attack students' speech. So he came out then afterwards with a statement called it respectful disagreement. And I think that it wasn't really, the first statement wasn't, it was his office who published it, because they were also hiding the emails. So I would email him and he would not receive my emails. I'm like, I'm a faculty member. I mean, I'm under the gun. For a whole year I was attacked. So we basically decided to go public. So we organized a huge campaign. I had 500 Jews, Israelis writing a statement on my behalf. I know there is 2 or 3 people in the audience, including Simona. Almost 500 intellectuals from around the world. We have the strikers from the 1968 strike rights statements, the community from Arab Muslim students. Everybody signed statements and so on. The university, the university doesn't like the press, doesn't like publicity and so on. So then on June 24th, finally the president came out with a press release, said I did not do anything wrong, that I can meet with whoever I want, I can research whatever I want and so on. And the reason why they wanted to actually target me per se, it's not personal, because we don't know each other, but it is because I'm one faculty member. I'm a token, one person. I was building an academic program. We have the Edward Said mural. I teach the only course on Palestine throughout the country. Palestine. It's not Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It's not Arab-Israeli, whatever. It's Palestine. It's called Palestine. Ethnic studies perspective, right? So we take it from the critical ethnic studies. And we were working towards a collaboration with Palestinian University. And so in the process of all of this stuff, now the minor in 2 weeks is going to be approved. So that's great. So regardless whether I'm there or not, it's institutionalized. We have the collaboration officially with An-Najah University, official now. We signed the agreement, and Najah just received it and signed it. So now we're building more collaboration, and now we're working with Bir Zaid, which will be, Najah is the first university in any Arab or Muslim context that San Francisco State has relations with. So it's the opening. And we have Edward Said Scholarship now, official now. We have Edward Said Scholarship for students to apply to, graduate or undergraduate. And all of it, it has all to do with the fact of Iraq. We said, no, we're not going to take this line. It takes time. It takes organizing. But once you do something of this sort, in the process, you educate university administrators. Because a lot of the time, people don't know. And the minute these Zionist groups come and say anti-Semitism, everybody freaks. Because nobody wants to be involved. Nobody wants to be labeled as an anti-Semite. Nobody wants to be called a racist. People don't want to be called bad things, right? So people get scared, so they censor themselves. Sometimes actually administrators who are not necessarily white, who are not necessarily Jewish, who are people of color, they actually end up being disciplined as more than, if it were somebody from Israeli Jewish studies or Israeli studies. Because they are afraid of being called, anti-Semites and so on. So they censor themselves ahead and they try to police us. They're the ones who come to us first and say, oh, you can do this flyer, you cannot do this, you cannot do this. We haven't even gotten to the other side yet, right? And so it's really important to do that. So I think in the process of what we've been doing, there has been a lot of education to the university president, to the administration, to the faculty. The faculty senate of the whole California State University, all of it, it's the largest system in the country, has voted on academic freedom. They passed a resolution. We don't have any statements on academic freedom. The whole system doesn't. So you don't know what students or faculty have the right to. The Palestinian Solidarity legal support, they're good, they're great, but their resources are very small, they cannot, so I do think that it is I do think that you should meet with PSC. I think you should put them on the spot and ask them. I went to my union, I filed the grievance with the Academic Freedom Committee of the Senate, University Senate. I've been pushing after them because so I know I come from an organizing background. I was an activist before I even became an academic, and I continue to be an organizer. But what happens to other professors? I'm senior. What happens to professors who are junior? What if they teach some? we've had it. UCLA, David Shorter. We have tons of examples, one after the other, of faculty being attacked, students being attacked. The students and the GOB students, the academic standing was affected last semester. They had death threats directed at them from some of the kids in Coalition for Israel or Hillel, and they told that to the president. We met with the president, they said this to the president, and he was shocked. And the university officials, when the media came to, Fox News came to, harass the students, and they said, we don't want to talk to them. The students talked to the dean of students and said to him, he said, oh, go call security. So when we were meeting with the president, I asked the president, isn't he supposed to actually prevent the media kick them out? He said yes. So he made that note. Okay, so now the president is getting to know about what's going on. But it's not enough, because you have to keep at it all the time. Why? Because the Zionist narrative is in the media. It is the only narrative that is always being repeated. What we are doing is what we call counter-hegemonic. It's a marginalized narrative. What we're saying is not something that everybody is used to. So it is like when we say here something once and here and there, their story is being repeated all the time. So we need to make sure that we are always there. We defend ourselves. You need to talk to the community, and also my community in San Francisco, they came and met with the president and said to him, what are you doing about this? We are very worried about this. The president starts taking notice. The president staff, because they don't want the president to be yelling at them, they also are taking notice. This is how things happen. This is what you really need to be doing. You need, and we're also very happy to help you. And I think SJP in different places should also coordinate with each other. That's the way we can do it. Organize. I sound like